and thanks for joining us for this COVID-19 briefing for Wednesday, January 6th. I thought today was going to be a normal briefing, though at the point we're at now, it's hard to classify any day as normal. But like you, I've spent parts of the afternoon watching with just heartbreak with what's going on at our nation's Capitol building. I know Hattiesburg is a diverse city with political viewpoints that span the entire spectrum, but I hope we all recognize that what happened today was not okay. That wasn't patriotism. That was lawlessness. That was a mob encouraged by political opportunists bent on making a spectacle and trashing the very institutions and processes that so many love and so many others have fought and even died to protect. It was a very tough day in our nation's history, and I hope that we can take stock individually and collectively and reflect on what is happening and ask ourselves, what are we doing? I mean, how do we as Americans and just decent people recognize that all is not right? Recognize the double standard and see that we have a long way to go. How do we respond in this season of chaos? I don't assume to have all the answers, but I do know as a country, as a society, we do need some. And for now, maybe it just starts with the courage to say this isn't right, and then maybe follow it up with some decency and some kindness and some service to one another. And while I know the political division is certainly top of mind, I do want to make sure that you have the information that you need on our current public health emergency right here in Hattiesburg. So we'll move on to COVID. Obviously, this was a Wednesday, so we held our conference call, and I'll share some of those statistics that are alarming and then give you a quick update on some vaccination stuff. Today in the hospital, we have 108 people who are COVID positive between our two hospitals, and 34 of those 108 are in the ICU. We are seeing some concerning trends on our hospital capacity. As of this morning, Forest General had 5 acute beds available and 1 ICU bed available, and Merritt Health Wesley, as of this morning, had 3 acute beds available and 0 ICU beds. Now, of course, every hospital in the morning will discharge patients, so it's likely that capacity opened up in the morning, but of course, in the afternoon, you have ER visits and other things that bring more people back into the hospital, and so it's important to know that hospital capacity is governed by space, and I just told you kind of the room situation, but also staffing and supplies. Luckily, our staff are now being vaccinated in our hospitals, and so hopefully we're going to protect those numbers, but also know that the space is getting limited, and so it's important that we make wise decisions to not further contribute to the issue. Statewide today, we had 2,791 new cases reported with 38 deaths. Unfortunately, we did have 1 new death in Forest County today, bringing the total to 106 deaths in Forest and 61 in Lamar. New positive cases today, we had 74 in Forest and 58 in Lamar, so 132 new cases in our metro area. The inside 14-day number is the other number that we look at. That's the number of people who have received their positive test result in the last 2 weeks. That number was 589 in Forest, 578 in Lamar, so the total was 1,167 in our metro area. We are obviously seeing the effects from around the Christmas holidays and beginning to see new positives that are coming from New Year's gatherings. And I know we often sound like a broken record, but this is a very concerning time, and we need to be mindful more than ever of what it will take to protect the vulnerable, prevent overrun of the healthcare system, and prioritize public health while allowing the private sector to continue operating. And that's wearing a mask, practicing social distance, and avoiding those unnecessary gatherings. On the vaccination front, we did get some challenging news today. We talked about the new collaboration between the Department of Health and the Convention Center in the city. I will say that the Hattiesburg Convention Center's visitor centers, those vaccination slots, those 210 per day on Tuesdays and Fridays, those are all booked through January. Even the site in Jones County is also booked through the month of January. However, I do believe some other options could be developing. I think that we should be looking to our healthcare providers for news on that in the next week or so. So I would encourage you to follow our great institutions here in Hattiesburg: Forest General, Hattiesburg Clinic, Merritt Health Wesley. I know everyone is very eager, particularly those with older parents and grandparents. But more than ever, it's important that we play defense right now while we wait for vaccination slots to open up. And that defense consists of wearing a mask, practicing social distancing, avoiding gatherings, protect the vulnerable, your parents and grandparents, by by trying not to get around them if you've been exposed or if you've been in areas where you could have been exposed. So that's what we need the most right now. And so that's all we kind of have for COVID. But on this very tough day for our country, I encourage you to see all this going on around us and reflect. I hope that you tell your children that what they saw today should not be what we aspire to as a nation. And I hope in the midst of a real public health emergency that you take heed and we choose actions that are wise. And most importantly, on a day like today, let's be kind to one another. Courage.